It's the latest scandal involving the royal family, but this time they're on the receiving end as the owner of a private fitness club cashes in on his most famous client. Will she sue? The story tonight, live at 5.
Now, from the ATV News Center at every city and town in the Maritimes, this is the ATV Evening News, live at 5.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Live at 5 for Monday, November 8th. I'm Nancy Regan.
And I'm Paul Minion, and welcome to Live at 5. Well, a very busy Monday around the region. Canada's top broadcasters are in the Maritimes this week. Nancy, they're looking at the future of television, and so are we tonight. That's just one of the many stories we have tonight, live at 5.
I'm Sally Cummings in St. John. Is violence on TV simply a mirror of our society, or does it actually mold our behavior? We'll find out later in the show.
I'm Greg Boone in Cape Breton, where they're talking about work on the fixed link between New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. The details coming up on Live at 5.
The heavy equipment moved in today just outside Borden as work began in earnest on a bridge to New Brunswick. I'm Dan Vio. I'll have more coming up on Live at 5.
I'm Connell Smith in St. John, where police want to stop abuse of the 911 phone system. We'll have more coming up.
And our editors make sure you don't miss a thing from the weekend in sports. You'll ooh and ah at the moments that are the plays.
And begins a wonderful series of stories leading up to Remembrance Day. Tonight, Bill's Memories of War segment recalls a lighter side of the war effort.
That is a good story, Nancy. That's coming up a little bit later. But first, let's check in with Steve Murphy, who's working on the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock. Steve, what's up?
All right, Paul, Nancy, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Coming up tonight at the ATV Evening News in just under an hour from now, the seamy underworld of child pornography. We know child pornographic movies are available in the Maritimes, but are some actually being produced here? The answer is tonight in an exclusive report from ATV's Janice Landry. Also on our program tonight, now that the choppers have been cut, are other defense programs also in danger of being slashed by the new government? Tonight, the frigate program. Could it be a target? As the Liberals consider cuts, more at 6 o'clock. And also on our program at 6 o'clock tonight, when a life sentence doesn't mean life behind bars. There's outrage today as the relatives of murder victims attack the justice system for being too easy. The story's coming up at 6 o'clock. Right now, it's time for our first fast look at the maritime weather forecast. Meteorologist Richard Zarowski in the ATV Weather Center. Richard?
Thanks a lot, Stephen. For once, the forecast is short, sweet, and simple. Loads of sunshine, cool temperatures coming up as a monster ridge dominates all of the maritime regions. I'll be happy to tell you about that forecast that I'm working on for you in about 25 minutes, Steve.
Thank you. The weather's here at 5:30, then at 6 o'clock, all the day's top stories, including why it's so hard for some people to get insurance on their properties. Tiffany Hussey's been on the phone working up a story that indicates some insurance companies are refusing to insure houses in neighborhoods prone to crime. You'll see why not all neighborhoods are created equal in the eyes of the insurance companies tonight on the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock, right after Live at 5 with Nancy and Paul. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Steve. First at 5 tonight, winds of change in TV. Canada is taking the lead in dealing with violence in television. Tonight, we're going to look at how proposed self-policing measures by TV executives will affect what you and I watch on television every night.
Private broadcasters in Canada are getting tough on TV violence. The Canadian Association of Broadcasters has introduced a new code for its member television stations to follow, and it's being touted as the toughest in North America. ATV's Jonathan Kay joins us now live from Halifax, where the CAB is holding its annual convention. Jonathan, what will this code mean to viewers?
Well, Nancy, the people who developed the code and the chairman of the CRTC, who are all in the Maritimes this weekend, or this week, by the way, say that it's such on the cutting edge to such an extent, I guess is the best way to phrase it, that broadcasters around the world will be watching the Canadian experience to see how well it works. But they caution that it won't solve the problem, it's just the first step. The TV Violence Code is aimed first and foremost at children, to protect them from excessive violence and inappropriate programming.
Ew. Ew.
Ew. The code bans gratuitous and glamorized violence outright, keeps violent programs intended for adults off the air until after 9 o'clock at night, and sets stiff rules for the depiction of violence in shows aimed at children. The people who drafted the code say you and I will notice a difference on our TV sets when it comes into effect.
I think there will be increased use of viewer advisories to let people know about the content so that they can make an informed choice about what it is they want to see. I think you will see probably some realignment of some scheduling, that programming, which the broadcasters feel is intended for an adult viewing audience, be scheduled after the 9 o'clock watershed hour.
But as we're well aware in this region, Canadian broadcasters account for only a portion of the programs beamed into our homes via cable.
You think you are calling me, nigga, man? Nobody calls. I called your code. Yeah, well, all you are is...
And children are usually the most knowledgeable VCR operators in any household. CRTC Chairman Keith Spicer says controlling these sources of violent programming isn't as easy, but it can be done.
We're talking the so-called violence chip that we are asking the cable industry to build into the new black box so that the parents can program their own TV set so that their kids will not see anything over a specified rating, maybe V3. If any V4 comes on, the screen goes dark.
So, Nancy, technology brings us these problems by bringing us signals from really around the world. And, Paul, technology has the solution as well.
Well, it's interesting that you say that technology has the answers, but where do the parents come in? Because, I mean, they're really the bottom line. I mean, you're responsible for your kids, right?
Well, this is what it comes down to, and the broadcasters are saying the main thing that they want to provide to people is information. No more surprises when you turn on the television set and a program comes on. You'll be able to know what to expect from a particular program, and if it's something that you know you're not going to like, you'll have the option of turning it off and turning on something else.
Yeah, so technology becomes a parent's aid, if you will.
Exactly.
Right. All right, thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan Kay, covering the Canadian Association of Broadcasters in Halifax, dealing with a very fascinating and yet complex issue that affects all of us because we all watch TV, Nance.
And Paul, here's a tough question. Does violent programming create a violent society, or does the violence on TV merely reflect the world in which we live? Experts have debated this topic over and over again. ATV's Sally Cummings is standing by live in St. John tonight with some answers. Sally.
Well, a study done last year by the American Psychological Association found that viewing violence does increase violence. But is that necessarily the case in this region? Here's what I found out. Many viewers suspect violent programming has a major impact on society.
I think that the violence that they show on TV probably adds to what happens in society as opposed to the other way around.
But others believe the violence shown on TV only mirrors reality.
No, I think it's a reflection of the society as it is.
But psychologists say it's impossible to ignore the relation between the two.
Just the issue that somehow the violence we have in our society is totally unrelated to the media portrayal of violence. To dismiss it is wishful thinking, I think. It has to be looked at very, very seriously.
Numerous studies have found the more violence that is viewed, the more aggressive attitudes are accepted. UMB professor Paul Gendreau contributed to the Violence and Youth Task Force for the American Psychology Association this year. The study found that extended viewing desensitizes people toward violence and increased their fear of violence.
When you look at the kids who have a lot of aggressive behavior, they tend to watch more television. There's a great deal of violence depicted on TV, so the hypothesis is that these individuals likely have their violent tendencies reinforced by watching television.
But not all viewers agree.
People don't really pay much attention to TV. If they want to do something, they'll just do it by themselves anyways.
What's your name?
Jim Bass.
At an early age, viewing begins at an early age, and most children watch about 28 hours of television every week. So experts have some recommendations that children could be more critical of the TV they watch, and they should learn how to distinguish between what's fictional, that is, and what's factual.
All right, thank you. Sally Cummings reporting live from St. John. Well, you know, for many of us, the first exposure to television violence comes from cartoons we watch as kids. Now, many of the classic cartoons contain scenes of violence ranging from exploding characters to tunes being crushed by falling objects. But is cartoon violence a concern, or should it be? Fonz Jeffson's been looking into that one today. Fonz, what did you get for us?
Well, Paul, as Canadian broadcasters look at the issue of violence in television, one of the things they are looking at in particular is whether or not cartoon violence may or may not have an effect on children. Now, as you know, most cartoons are made for children, so the usual system of ratings employed for movies simply won't work. When Chuck Jones and Michael Maltese developed their classic cartoons, it was 1949. The issue of violence on television was not a concern then, but today, as these and other cartoons that followed are played for a new generation of kids, parents are beginning to wonder if cartoon violence may be sending their kids mixed signals.
You know, rocks falling on them all the time, and, you know, and different things blowing up and that, and just trying to explain to her that it's not real, and, you know, she shouldn't try to imitate these cartoons and that.
A lot of children doesn't think it's real, but a lot of them relive it.
Unless we tell them these are all acting, you know, then they understand it, that this is only a picture, you know, it is not real, but it's an acting. But still there's an effect on them.
Sherry Blumenthal has been an educator for more than 30 years. He sees a direct relationship between cartoon violence and student behavior.
Well, maybe they should start not showing so much violence in the cartoons. I mean, but if you look at some cartoons, I mean, you go right back to Walt Disney materials, and there's some violence in there, too. I mean, you can't just cut it out because it's part of life.
Parents and educators say it is not when children are watching cartoons that problems generally develop, but what some of them do after watching.
Kids mimic what they see on TV, what they see in cartoons.
As Canadian broadcasters look at the violence issue, they have begun looking more closely at cartoons.
Kids deserve a choice as adults do. And with the dangers of the violence dossier, we're all aware of the research on that. I think we have to make sure that children have a good spectrum of choices. And I'm not talking of wall-to-wall Anne of Green Gables. There's even a place for some kind of violence on the screen.
Now, Paul, you may be wondering why we did a report on cartoon violence but did not show any cartoon violence. That speaks to how sensitive an issue it really is. The studios we contacted today refused to allow us to use any excerpts from their cartoons in order to show what we're talking about here tonight.
That's important. I was kind of looking forward to seeing some of those cartoons. I mean, a lot of the people consider some of those cartoons classics. That, I mean, how can you take them off TV? These are classics, right?
Absolutely, no question. Big following.
Maybe next time. Thank you, Fawn Stetson, reporting from Halifax. Nets?
You know, there's a lot more to the violence on television issue than meets the eye. How do you decide what is violent? It's a tough issue. As an example, we want to show you a clip from a blockbuster movie that was aimed largely at children and has appeared on television. We want to ask your opinion. Is it too violent for TV? Watch this.
Heads up! Don't worry, Marv, I'll get him for you.
That's our example. Now we want to know what you think in a Live at 5 telephone poll. Do you agree this scene is too violent for television? If you think it is, the number to call is 1-900-273-0030. That's 1-900-273-0030 to register a yes vote. If you disagree, if you think the scene is not too violent for television, the number is 1-900-273-0031. That's 1-900-273-0031 to register a no vote. Remember, calls cost 50 cents each. Our lines will remain open until 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. We'll have the results on the Tuesday edition of Live at 5, and we'll repeat these numbers in just a few minutes in case you missed them this time.
Controversial, and as I mentioned earlier, Nancy, a complex issue. And I get back to the issue of the violence in cartoons. Somebody around here today made a point that, you know, if you show something like somebody throwing a grand piano out of a window, that's not something a kid can easily imitate. But if you put marbles on the floor and wait for somebody to trip over them, then I suppose that's setting a bad example that kids could actually attain and mimic.
Well, and you've heard examples of kids putting on a Superman cape and jumping off a garage roof and breaking a leg. That happens as well.
And then many people ask, of course, at what point are we responsible for our own actions? Anyway, lots more to come on the Monday edition of Live at 5, including a breakthrough day for people looking for jobs in our region. A mega project gets underway. We'll have that story when we return. The facelift of the old Imperial Theater in St. John is slowly progressing. Today there were cosmetic touches on the outside, including fine sheet metal work and copper flashing. But it's expected to be another year before a refurbished Imperial is ready to open its doors once again. And it'll be quite a while yet before we are driving from New Brunswick to Prince Edward Island and vice versa. Bulldozers, graders, loaders, and trucks, though, the heavy equipment have moved on site in Borden, PEI, as work starts in earnest on the fixed link from PEI to New Brunswick. And ATV's Dan Vio caught up to the action today.
Most of the heavy equipment is from Newfoundland. Most of the men using it are from Prince Edward Island. McNamara Construction of St. John's won the Phase 1 contract here for preparing the site of the giant assembly yard for the concrete and steel bridge components. The work began in earnest today. For the man at the top of the consortium building the bridge, it was a great day.
It looks like the weather holds like this for another 6 months. We'll get a good jump on it.
6 months ago, carpenter Ron Davies was circulating his own ProLink petition. Today, he's at work here.
I think we're building part of the, a better future for the island. The thrill of my life, really. I guess the only thing I'm disappointed about is that we could have been here sooner and had an awful lot more people working right now, and it would have been an awful lot better Christmas for an awful lot of people in PEI.
Straight Crossing joint venture.
At the Straight Crossing office, the phone lines were humming. Even the halls were busy. Already new businesses have sprung up in the town. The project will make this little town a busy spot for the next 4 years, but Gianelia says it won't be a boom town in the worst sense.
The people won't be living in Borden. The people that are working here, they'll be living elsewhere in the island, Summerside and towards Charlottetown. So I think what's going to happen is that some of the businesses in Borden are going to increase their activity, like the restaurants and service businesses. As you can see, it's quite a ways off from Borden itself, the town proper, the site. So it's the site's actually going to be removed. It has its own separate entrance, and I don't think you'll notice much activity except during shift changes.
Site preparation will be complete by next summer, when as many as 2,000 workers will begin actually building the bridge. They should be all done by the end of May 1997. In Borden, Dan Vio, ATV News.
The general contractor for the fixed link is letting Maritimers know just what opportunities are available for work on the mega project. Construction and tradespeople are being hired, and much of the preliminary engineering work has begun. ATV's Greg Boone joins us live from Cape Breton tonight with more on that aspect of the historic project. Greg.
And historic it is, Nancy. Many of the region's unemployed are now looking at ways in which they can secure work on the construction of the project.
The Northumberland Strait Crossing project linking New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island is creating about 2,000 direct jobs in the Maritimes. But the question of who will get first priority for the work is already answered, at least in the minds of Cape Bretoners.
I think first preference should go to the local people that are qualified to work on the fixed link, and I believe that that's the way it's going to come down.
Eddie McNeil represents about 4,000 construction and tradespeople from Cape Breton and part of northeastern Nova Scotia. Although there are many unemployed construction workers here, he says it's only fair that those in New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island get the work first. There's a chance a few tradespeople from here may transfer to union locals in those provinces to search for link jobs.
And while the fixed link benefits won't be that great for Cape Breton's construction and tradespeople, there's still hope that other major projects will eventually be approved.
Workers from the non-union sector are also interested in the Strait Crossing and remain curious about job prospects.
Hopefully we can get involved with some of the companies that will be supplying services in the engineering field too, to the fixed link there, so get involved that way.
The crossing's general contractor is making sure everyone in the region is aware of the economic opportunities.
A lot of it depends on who's available. We believe the skills are here, and we don't expect a large contingent of imported workforce. The ones that are will be highly specialized.
Strait Crossing Incorporated is hosting a series of 12 seminars across the Maritimes. Workers and contractors say it provides some hope.
Well, we started a new company, myself and 5 partners, and we're looking for a little bit of the work if there's any available for us.
For some sectors of the project, training will be provided to residents from Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick to ensure they are able to handle the bridge construction work.
Some of the Strait Crossing's economic web has already expanded into the Cape Breton area. A maritime-based engineering firm with a local office in Sydney has been doing much of the preliminary work. Nancy?
Greg, I've got to ask, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there watching tonight who are curious about how they can get information on fixed link jobs. Do you have an answer for that?
You can send either a resume or an inquiry to the Strait Crossing Incorporated, 10 Pownell Street, Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. The postal code is C1A 3B6.
All right. Thank you, Greg, very much.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too, Greg. That's ATV's Greg Boone in Sydney. Up next on Live at 5, trouble with 911 in St. John.
There's probably 80 to 90%
of the incoming calls on our 911 lines that are not actual emergencies.
Stand by one. Take one.
And
good job in there, guys. That's the ATV crew in the control room, hard at work as always. Welcome back to Live at 5. Police in St. John are trying to solve a problem that is bothering city police departments across the region. Abuse of the 911 service. That's when people call the emergency 911 number when there is no real emergency. More now from ATV's Connell Smith.
The 911 lines are supposed to be kept free for what police refer to as an urgent need for assistance. A crime in progress, a fire, a medical problem that requires an immediate ambulance. Although it's good that people are aware of 911, it's often abused because people find it too convenient.
Whether the school buses are running or not, what the road conditions are from here to Fredericton or Moncton.
Assistant Deputy Chief Brian Fillmore lists just a couple of examples. He says these requests for information could make a real emergency even worse.
And in cases where a 911 line is tied up, another call coming in could be the real emergency. In fact,
while Fillmore talked to us today, a small indicator blinked in background. It's a 911 line tied up by a child playing with a phone. Police had to trace the call and then dispatch a police car to the home to get the parents to hang up the telephone. 911 is often the first phone number that children learn. Sometimes parents pre-program it into the quick dial memory of their telephones, and while the kids are playing, they trigger it by simply pushing buttons. Despite these occasional headaches, police do encourage children to learn the number. Even these preschool kids, when prompted, know who to call. If you guys are in any kind of trouble, you know what number to call, then, do you?
911.
You all know it, then, do you? How about this guy? Do you know?
Yeah, as long as they hear.
Oh, yes, they know.
You have a little phone you practice on or anything?
Oh, yes, we have a telephone that NBTEL gave us one, actually, an old telephone that they can dial themselves. And
Teacher Laura Beatty says the children practice 911 calls during Safety Week at their North End daycare.
I called it 5 years ago, and the ambulance still hasn't arrived yet.
Another North End resident, Doug Ferris, has little faith in 911. 5 years ago, he had a genuine emergency.
My wife, she fell and broke her nose and had a heart attack, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I still haven't got the ambulance yet. I had to call the rescue squad.
Ferris, who's a retired fireman, says he called the fire department directly, and they responded, taking his wife to hospital. In St. John, Connell Smith, ATV News.
Thank you, Connell. Certainly a reason for serious concerns. Well, we're moving along now to our Live at 5 milestones for this evening. It is the 60th anniversary for Lloyd and Rose Randall of Hanwell, New Brunswick. Best wishes sent from their son, 4 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. This happy couple is also married 60 years today. Dorothy and Howard Murray have 3 children, 12 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren. Best wishes and congratulations to them. And finally tonight, Ruth and Earl Moses of Milton, Nova Scotia have also been married 60 years. Many happy returns from their 2 daughters, 3 grandchildren, and all of their family and friends. And if you are celebrating a special milestone in your life, congratulations to you too.
Yeah, that's super. Good to hear it. And just want to bring to our viewers' attention the tours that we have of the ATV newsroom. As you know, we've got our new studios. We've had them here for just under a year now. We're awfully proud of them. And a lot of people call wondering how they can get a tour through the newsroom. So here's how you can do it. All you have to do is drop us a note. We'll show you the address in a moment. But we want to tell you, first of all, that the next 3 available dates are Monday, December 20th, Monday, January 10th, and the 24th of January, also a Monday, at either 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you'd like to get in on one of those upcoming ATV news tours, here's how you do it. Just drop us a line at ATV Tours in care of Live at 5, Post Office Box 1653, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and our postal code is B3J2Z4. We'd love to have you drop by and give us a visit. Now, top of the show, we were talking about violence in television and how private broadcasters in our country are addressing it. And we want to get your opinion, kind of gauge what your thoughts are on this, because it's a very complex issue. It's
tough to say what is violent, exactly.
That's right. So we've got a clip from a well-known blockbuster movie that you've seen on television before. We're going to play it for you, and we're going to ask your opinion about it. Here's the clip from Home Alone.
Heads up! Don't worry, Marv. I'll get him for you.
So here's where you get to voice your opinion. We want to know what you think in a Live at 5 telephone poll. Do you agree this scene is too violent for TV? If you think it is, the number to call is 1-900-273-0030. If you disagree, if you don't think the scene is too violent for television, the number you should call is 1-900-273-0031. Remember, calls cost 50 cents each, and our lines will remain open till 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. We'll have the results on tomorrow's edition of Live at 5.
That's right. So give us a call. We're very interested to see what you think. Very complex issue. It's hard to figure. There's a lot more than meets the eye, if you'll pardon that pun one more time. Anyway, lots more to come on the Monday edition of Live at 5. Richard Zarowski's got the complete maritime weather picture for us.
And we also have this special story still ahead.
I'm Bill Jessamine, and I'm standing on the runway at CFB Shearwater. Later in this hour, I'll have a special report on memories of war by a pilot who more than 50 years ago flew off this runway to England and to war.
That's coming up, and then later it's unpredictable, wild, and wacky. The plays of the weekend. Stay with us. There's more Live at 5 just ahead. Glorious sunsets this time of year,
beautiful.
this time of day. Welcome back to Live at 5, the Monday edition.
We have some exciting news here at ATV today. The president of ATV was honored today at the Canadian Association of Broadcasters annual convention in Halifax.
So a great visionary, a friend to all, and a great contributor to broadcasting and to Atlantic Canada. Fred Sherratt, it's your day. Congratulations.
And there he is, Fred Sherratt, awarded one of the most prestigious awards in the private broadcasting industry, the Ted Rogers Sr. Velma Rogers Graham Award. It's been presented annually since 1975 in recognition of pioneering spirit and great contributions to the broadcasting system in Canada.
I can't think of a greater honor than to receive an award with recognition from your peers that bears the Rogers name. Teams weren't lost.
Mr. Sherratt is a native of Truro, Nova Scotia, and he has served the broadcasting industry for more than 40 years, and everybody here in our ATV family would like to send out a big congratulations.
On a job well done over a long period of time, steering our ship in particular. For that, we're thankful. And I'm sure so is Richard Zarowski, who's been putting together the maritime weather picture for us, and it's just about all complete now, right, Richard? What do you got?
You're absolutely right, Paul, and when the boss comes to visit, we also like to have nice weather, so that's exactly what we're going to have. Over the next 4 or 5 days, we're calling for lots of sunshine. Temperatures a little on the cool side, particularly in the wee hours of the morning. First thing you'll get up, you'll have to scrape off the ice on your windscreen, and for the most part, it looks as though that area of high pressure will continue to provide us with specifically that type of weather. Temperatures for the daytime highs will be remaining in the single digits, as they did today. Close-up view on the latest satellite picture shows some cloud just over the mouth of the Bay of Fundy and up to the northern areas of New Brunswick there. They're getting a few scattered snow flurries just off the Gulf, but for the most part we're looking at clear skies. Daytime highs were on the cool side, from the freezing mark up through Bathurst and Charlotte to about 3 to 5 degrees in the rest of the Maritimes. It looks like the daytime high in Halifax was the warmest temperature recorded in the maritime regions. For tonight, we're looking at the clouds continuing to the north. Temperatures there between -3, -4 degrees. In through New Brunswick, steady around -4 to -5, particularly in the central and southern areas of the map, where we're going to wind up getting some clearing. Now, the clearing skies will give us what's called radiational cooling, no blanket of clouds to keep us warm. Out to the east, temperatures hovering around the freezing mark to slightly above. It looks like the warm spot overnight will be around the Charlottetown region. The mainland of Nova Scotia will have temperatures hovering around the freezing mark to slightly below. And again, we're expecting to see clear skies down to the south, partly cloudy conditions in through the central areas of the map, and up to the north, of course, we're looking at more cloud and the threat of getting a scattered snow flurry. Now, by tomorrow evening, looks as though you can see that band of cloud to the north. In part, there's a bit of a weak disturbance up there, sort of a quasi-stationary cold front dragging itself through along its length. Also, with the northerly flow to the north, they're picking up some moisture because the Gulf is open and the water is still warm, so you're winding up with an instability effect. But by and large, it's the area of high pressure that we're looking at to continue to be our weather maker for the next little while. Low pressure disturbance is pretty much non-existent. This high is a monster, stretches right out into the central prairie regions of Canada. Of course, it's producing clear skies there as well. For tomorrow, a few scattered snow flurries to the north. We can expect to see sunny with cloudy periods all across the maritime regions, with the possible exception of the north. Even there, they're looking at some sunshine. Let's take a close-up view of some of the temperatures. New Brunswick will be pretty much a repeat of what we had today, 4 to 6 degrees. Out to the east, temperatures will be steady around 5 degrees from Kensington right through Glace Bay. And then along the mainland of Nova Scotia, we're looking at temperatures from 5 degrees in the Truro region to 7 degrees in the valley area of Nova Scotia, Annapolis, Royal, Digby, to about 5 to 7 degrees along the eastern shore and south shore of Nova Scotia. Now, the nuts and bolts of the forecast says probability of sunshine. We had a lot of it today. Are we going to get some through the week? Well, for tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're looking at an 80% probability of sunshine as that monster ridge continues to dominate our weather patterns, and that puts a smile on my face and Paul's as well.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Well, as we all know, November 11th officially marks the end of World War I. 75 years later, the memories of that war and the Second World War are to some as vivid today as they were during that terrible period in our history. In part one of a special 4-part series on Canadians who served and died in both conflicts, Bill Jessum's Memories of War this evening touches on a lighter side to war.
It's been nearly half a century since the end of the Second World War, and those who served in that conflict are becoming, like their First World War brethren, fewer and fewer. Retired General Joe Romano was a young RCAF pilot who flew out of Shearwater in the early days of the war. One of Joe's happier memories of that time was not a deadly dogfight with a Luftwaffe pilot, but a flight to the Far East, fly Dakotas from Cornwall, England to Burma, a flight that did have dangerous possibilities.
Shortly after takeoff, we were in the cloud, and we got down as low as we could. We were still in the fog, and then we climbed up to about 15,000, which was the limit of the DAC without oxygen. We were still in it, so we just flew on met wind. Now, met wind was not that accurate, it would have appeared, because we flew on for a distance of about 1,200 miles before we broke out of the clag, and by this time, of course, the sun was out, and it was a number of hours later, and the navigator took a sunshot and said we're quite a bit farther out to sea. We've drifted much farther than we should, and we'll may or may not make our destination Gibraltar. It turned out that when I did a fuel check, we didn't have very much. So I said, what's the closest air base? And he checked and found out that it was Rabat in French Morocco, where we made it to, with the spare fuel tanks in the cabin, we made it there with about 20 minutes of fuel left. Now, by this time, of course, I was out of the stream of aircraft which had servicing set up across North Africa and Arabia and all the way to Karachi in India. Well, a trip that was scheduled to have taken 8 days took us 27 days. That was a very, very memorable for me occasion, a time, part of the war that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Not all memories of war are pleasant, of course. Some are painful to remember.
And that, when the Padre comes in at night to pick up the personal effects of the fellow who never made it back, that's when it really gets to you. You don't have time while you're out there thinking about these things, but even if you see an aircraft going down, but then it's at night in the tent, the fellow slept next to you for days in the next bed, then you've got to get to reflect on it.
When the war ended, 250,000 men and 17,000 women had served in the RCAF. Of these, 17,000 made the supreme sacrifice. Memories of war, memories that should not be forgotten. Bill Jessum, ATV News.
And Bill Jessum's series continues all this week leading up to Remembrance Day, and we're happy to tell you that included in that series will be Pier 21, which many of you will recall from a couple of years ago an award-winning piece of personal reflective by Bill Jessamine.
A wonderful bit of television,
So
no
that's coming up
question.
this week as we head into Remembrance Day.
Still to come tonight, Yvonne Colbert's on your side with the Monday mailbag of Maritimers' plights and Yvonne's solutions.
And the latest royal scandal involves a hidden camera. Princess Diana isn't going to take this one lying down. We'll tell you about it later. Heading home on a Monday evening. Welcome back to Live at 5. Yvonne Colbert standing by on your side. That's in just a moment. First, let's check in with Steve Murphy, who's working on the ATV Evening News at 6. Steve?
All right, thank you, Paul. Coming up inside 20 minutes on your ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock, child pornography. It has been available here in the Maritimes for many years, but tonight an ATV investigation reveals it is actually being produced here, the story at 6 o'clock. Also on our program tonight, there is more emotional testimony at the murder trial of those two boys in Preston, England. The world is gripped by the case in which 2-year-old James Bulger was abducted and murdered. More on the trial today. And also tonight, the future of the frigates. Is the program in danger of being sunk as the Liberals consider where to slash their budgets? The choppers may only have been the beginning. The story here on the ATV Evening News coming up immediately after Live at 5, which continues now with Yvonne Colbert and Nancy Regan on your side.
Thank you, Steve. It is time now for ATV on your side, and tonight it's Mailbag Monday.
That's right, Nancy. We've got no time to waste here, so we're going to get right down to work. Our first letter tonight comes from a lady in North Sydney, Nova Scotia, and she writes, I am receiving chatelaine in my mailbox for the last 3 or 4 months. I never signed for it, so why are they sending it to me? I sent the magazines back, and I also sent them a letter telling them not to send any more, but I'm still getting them. Could you please help me in this matter? And it's signed, Mrs. Sarah Tobin.
Well, I can understand why Mrs. Tobin would be concerned. Some magazines do send unsolicited copies, and they bill you if you don't send them back, so...
That's why she was concerned, sure enough, Nancy. However, it turns out the chatelaine that she was receiving, or is receiving, is a gift for her from a friend in Ontario. It's just that she was never sent the little card in the mail notifying you you're getting this gift, so she had no way of knowing that it was in fact a present. I've written to her explaining this, giving her the friend's name. Now she can enjoy her chatelaine and not have to worry about paying for it in the meantime.
All right, you're the bearer of good news. Do you have another letter for us?
On to the next letter. This one comes from Campbellton, New Brunswick, and it reads, Dear Yvonne, I see on TV how well you help people in distress. I have not received my GST check for the month of July yet. I called and wrote, and finally someone talked to me. I told her what the trouble was. She looked over some files and told me I would be getting it in a week. That was July 20th. Could you possibly help? I'd be forever grateful. And it's signed Therese Boudreau.
And were you able to help in this case?
That's right. Now, it turns out that Mrs. Boudreau's husband had always received the GST check in the family, and he died in July of last year. Now, she thought it would automatically be sent to her, but that's not the case. And, of course, her efforts to get it all straightened out just didn't work. Now, however, I spoke to her this morning. She has received her back payments. She's a very happy lady, and she said thank you very much.
Wonderful. All right.
There you go.
2 great resolutions. If you have a problem you think Yvonne may be able to help you with, here's how to get in touch with her.
You can give us a call. The area code is 902. The number is 493-3404. Leave a brief message on the machine. Or you can write P.O. Box 1653, Halifax, Nova Scotia, B3J2Z4. And Nancy, I just have to take a minute to tell you, my mail is this high. Please be patient with me. I'll get back to you sooner or later. If I think I can help you quickly, I'll get back to you real fast. So just sit tight, and eventually you will hear back.
That's why I love Mailbag Mondays, though. We get so much good news.
We do.
That's great. ATV's Yvonne Colbert is on your side. Paul.
And it's more good news for Plays of the Week fans. We've got the weekend edition coming up, so fasten your sofa belts. It's a wild ride, I should say, tonight. So wild I had a hard time saying it, if you know what I mean. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back to the ATV News Studio. We're going to quickly jump into the videotape machine for the Live at 5 exclusive plays of the weekend. Let's check out the Phoenix Cardinals. You know they beat the Eagles on the weekend. Got to show you this highlight. I think this is just great. Some nice scrambling by the quarterback, but I love the catch by Gary Clark, the former Redskin. That's a beauty, folks. Here's the best catch heading for the end zone. Charles Johnson in U.S. college ball, off the helmet, doink into the hands, and away we go. He plays for Colorado. Nice job, man. Here's the touchdown leading to the biggest headache of the weekend to this receiver for Boston College. Ouch. And what do football and bowling have in common? I don't know. Don't these guys kind of look like bowling pins to you? Which brings us to our next scene. I think we had more flying pins in the football clip than we did in this. Fix that gear. That guy won the tournament anyway. He didn't need that string. Hey, excitement. NBA has it, right? The season's back on. Shaq, Keel, O'Neal, and all the stars are back. Speaking of Shaq, he knows how to put the basket through the rim, folks, or the ball through the rim. And Patrick Ewing, he's back too with this monster. David Robinson of the Spurs, unstoppable on this play. Nice spin move inside. How about the Denver Nuggets? Nice feed for Reggie Williams. And then we have this from Vern Maxwell of the Rockets. Better luck next time, Vernon. Milwaukee Bucks did not miss on this play. It's called Splash the Drink in the gold seats. And the Minnesota Timberwolves working on an even more elaborate fan disruption technique, spearheaded by their mascot, Crunch. He was just warming up opening night, folks. And from crunch to chop, you can imagine how tiring this becomes. I don't know how much Ben Gay does this guy go through at the end of the day, huh? And now, would you call this next highlight ping pong, or would you call it table tennis? I don't know. Watch the guy on the left here, folks. He's amazing. I call it excellent. This is at the Super League table tennis tournament in Belgium. The guy on the left, yeah, he wins that one. Amazing. And in Holland, they were racing sidecars unsuccessfully. Hey, it's been really fun. Time to wrap it up with this little girl. All she wants for Christmas is some more teeth for her shark, especially up front. Seem to be missing a lot there. I don't know. I have to check out the concession stand on that one. The plays of the weekend, always a wacky time, and plays of the week coming up on Monday. Nance, or Friday?
Monday, Friday. Thanks, Paul. Once again, we want to give you the opportunity to take part in tonight's Live at 5 telephone poll. It involves the difficult issue of violence on television and the dilemma faced by those who have to decide what is violent. We'd like you to watch this famous clip from a blockbuster film aimed largely at children that has appeared on television. Afterwards, we'll ask your opinion. Is it too violent for TV? Watch this.
Heads up! Don't worry, Marv, I'll get him for you.
Okay, now we want to know what you think in our Live at 5 telephone poll. Here are the numbers for you. Do you agree that this scene is too violent for television? If you think it is, the number to call is 1-900-273-0030. If you disagree, if you think that scene was not too violent for television, 1-900-273-0031. Remember, calls cost 50 cents. Lines will remain open until 4:30 tomorrow, and we're going to have the results, of course, for you on tomorrow's episode of Live at 5. And when we return, Princess Diana gets physical in the privacy of an exclusive health club. Or so she thinks. Turns out the club owner was secretly taking pictures for cash. That story when we return. Well, there's trouble brewing in England. In fact, Buckingham Palace is really up in arms over this one. The Princess of Wales appeared on the front page of the Sunday Mirror, sitting astride an exercise machine, wearing skin-tight cycling shorts and a skimpy white camisole leotard.
Buckingham Palace strongly disapproved of an intrusion into the private lives of individuals, whoever they may be. A royal family spokesman said that. ITN's John Draper has more for us.
The Sunday Mirror says publication of the pictures will spark a new royal security storm. Instead, they've sparked another noisy row about newspapers invading the privacy of public figures. The photographs were taken 4 months ago at this West London gym. The princess was on this exercise machine, and the manager hid a camera in the ceiling above her. The pictures show the princess in a leotard. A celebrity PR man working for the gym says the manager was paid £100,000 for the photographs.
Very simply, he did it for money. He did it to make as much money as possible. His thoughts on the subject are that it was a golden opportunity, and that he wasn't revealing anything that hasn't already been revealed in terms of Princess Di being seen all around the world wearing swimwear.
Buckingham Palace said the public would make up their own minds about whether this kind of invasion of privacy was acceptable. The palace is considering further action. It could complain to the Press Complaints Commission, whose code of practice outlaws intrusions into privacy, including photographs taken without consent of people on private property. The Commission's chairman said the pictures were a flagrant breach of the code and called on the Mirror not to publish any more. As for the newspaper's claim that they highlighted a lapse in royal security...
Well, I've heard some hypocritical justifications of the unjustifiable. But that is the most hypocritical that I've heard to date.
The Sunday Mirror's editor wouldn't respond on camera to a call from Lord MacGregor not to publish any further pictures. But the Daily Mirror will have more, claiming critics are making a mountain out of a molehill.
Quite a story, and I don't know what you think about it, but
you don't want to know. I'm outraged by it, to tell you the truth.
Well, we've got the latest in from London. Just about half an hour ago, we got word that Princess Diana has won a court injunction barring a publication of any more pictures being published, pictures that were taken by that secretly placed camera. And the princess's lawyers also say that she will sue the newspaper and the gymnasium involved.
You've got a feel for her. Anyway, here's Richard Zarowski with a quick weather wrap for this Monday evening. Richard.
All right, Nancy and Paul, what we're looking at is some pretty good conditions out there. That monster ridge of high pressure has moved through. We're looking at clear skies and cooler temperatures as a result, and also on the marine front, the wind will be out of the southwest. In some areas up to 25 knots, but wave heights on the average 1 to 2 meters. A little more windy than we would want to have on the coastal areas, but the wind will gradually start to die down as the center of the high gets a chance to move through. So, first thing in the morning, it should be a good drive wherever. All you have to do is take your credit card or scraper out and get rid of the frost on the windscreen, and then you'll be able to see the road or wherever you're going to. We're looking at sunny conditions with a few cloudy periods here and there, particularly up in the northern areas of New Brunswick. Could be a little bit of cloud, could be a slight snow flurry here and there, so if that happens, beware of the fact that it could be a little slippery on the highways and byways of the Maritimes, and temperatures will be on the chilly side, -2 to +2 degrees. Now, as far as our weather fact goes, we're going to talk about sunshine, since we're getting all sorts of sunshine across the Maritime regions. In Chatham, New Brunswick, gets more sunshine than any other place in the Maritimes. How about that, Paul and Nancy?
All right, thank you very much, Richard.
Very Richard,
I was just talking to Nancy about the movie we've got coming up on ATV tonight. I guess you could call it the signature piece of this guy, Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner,
because
Dances
this
with Wolves.
really projected him to the very top of the Hollywood elite, didn't it? Anyway, here it is from bottom to top. Our primetime lineup tonight starts at 6:30 with Full House. Murphy Brown's at 7. Melrose Place is on at 7:30, and all new Murphy Brown at 8:30. Evening Shade at 9. Love and War at 9:30, and part 2 of Dances with Wolves at 10 o'clock. Kevin Costner's masterpiece.
Then on the Tuesday edition of Live at 5, should prostitution be legalized? It's an explosive moral issue. So what's at stake? How would legalization of the sex trade impact on your neighborhood? The debate tomorrow at 5.
That's it for us for now. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. News continues now with Steve Murphy. Steve?
Thank you, Paul. Tonight, protesting to put the life back in a life sentence.
We're concerned about the safety of the community.
He chopped the choppers, but will Kretchen sink the ships?
It would be impossible to cut this program, basically because we're building the last 5 ships at the moment as we speak.
And child pornography, sold and made in the Maritimes.
He loves the younger girls because their bodies are in better shape than what the older ones, as he would say.
Now, from the #1 news team in Atlantic Canada, the ATV Evening News.
As we know all too well, the urban crime rate is climbing, so the question is, what can you do to protect yourself and your property? Obviously, the police suggest you make sure your home is secure and that you take out adequate insurance in case of theft. But what if you can't get insurance? As ATV's Tiffany Hussey has discovered, some companies are refusing to insure people because of where they live.
Janet McKinnon used to live in Halifax's fashionable South End. 2 years ago, she moved to a North End condo. That's when her insurance problems began. Janet says her longtime insurance agent refused to insure her new North End condo because it was too much of a risk to the company.
He had difficulty. He phoned me back telling me that the insurance company that had insured my apartment in the South End was not willing to insure the condominium in the North End because of the location.
McKinnon promptly called the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission to see if she could lodge a formal complaint, but was told it was a delicate matter.
If an evaluation is made that a locality is a high-risk locality or a low-risk locality, that is based on the evaluation or perception that companies have about the people who live there.
Now here's how it works. Over a period of 2 weeks, I called 8 Metro Halifax local insurance agencies. Here's how most of the conversations went.
Hi,
Hi, I'm looking to get some tenant insurance.
Where's the apartment located?
It's on Maynard Street.
Oh, not the area.
Why?
There's too much crime in that area, and insurance companies won't, my insurance companies won't write there.
Do you know of any who do?
Not offhand, no.
Buddy Day has lived on Maynard Street for over 3 decades. He says discrimination by neighborhood is nothing new.
It poses that whole question as to whether or not this is only applied, to certain people.
Ironically, Halifax police reported fewer property crimes in certain North End areas last year than in either the South End and West End of Halifax.
That area, in relation to property-related crimes, is probably lower than other areas of the city.
Heather McKinnon is with the Nova Scotia Insurance Registrar, a provincial watchdog group that regulates insurance agencies.
Well, it's not appropriate for insurance companies to deny coverage to someone strictly on the basis of location. However, it is appropriate for insurance companies to assess risk and underwrite accordingly.
Police records show there were 46 break-and-enters in this specified area of North End Halifax last year. They say that's a low crime rate compared to other areas of Halifax with fewer people and more crime. In Halifax, Tiffany Hussey, ATV News.
A farm family in Old Barnes, Nova Scotia, is trying to pick up the pieces tonight after a spectacular fire.